The lecture hall fell silent. Not the comfortable kind of silence that settles over a classroom during focused study, but the razor-edged quiet that precedes something dangerous. Professor Velkara stood at the front, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence as she surveyed the 100 or so cadets arranged in tiered seating before her. Most were Zinthari, like herself, with a smattering of other species who had earned their way into the Galactic Military Academy. Today, she began, her voice carrying easily through the amphitheater. We continue our study of asymmetric warfare. Specifically, conflict scenarios where numerical superiority does not guarantee victory. A few students shifted in their seats. This was familiar territory, the kind of theoretical exercise they had tackled dozens of times before. Velkara pulled up a holographic display, showing troop movements, tactical positions, standard doctrine. Boring stuff, really. Half the class was already fighting the urge to check their data pads. Then Cadet Rinna, seated in the 3rd row, raised one slender appendage. Velkara paused. Yes, Cadet. Professor, with respect, these scenarios always involve species with comparable technology and training. Rinna's translator rendered her words in perfect galactic standard, though her mandibles clicked with what might have been nervousness. What happens when there is a significant imbalance in those factors? An excellent question. Velkara's teaching instincts kicked in immediately. Can you provide an example of what you mean? Rinna hesitated just for a moment. When she spoke again, every word came out carefully measured. What is the kill ratio for a single Earth Marine, Professor? The silence returned, deeper this time. Someone in the back row laughed, a sharp bark of amusement that died almost immediately. Everyone knew about Earth. Everyone had heard the stories. Most assumed they were exaggerations, propaganda, the kind of myths that accumulated around any species that managed to punch above their weight class. But no one asked about them in formal military instruction. It was considered poor taste, like bringing up an embarrassing relative at a formal dinner. Velkara's expression did not change, but her secondary eyes narrowed slightly. She had been teaching at the academy for 23 cycles, long enough to recognize when a student had stumbled onto something genuinely interesting, perhaps without fully understanding what they had found. That, she said slowly, is a complicated question, Cadet. Is it? Another voice, this time from a Corthan student named Brel, his scales reflecting the blue light from the holographic display. The humans have only been part of the galactic community for, 40 cycles? They fought in the Krellian border wars, sure, but their actual combat record is fairly limited compared to established military powers. Limited? The word came from Cadet Thex, a Vordani whose species had very definite opinions about humanity. My cousin served on the RSS Valiant during the Krellian campaign. He said one human squad held a supply depot against an entire Krellian assault company for 6 hours. 6 hours! Against 50-to-1 odds. Stories, Brel countered, waving a clawed hand dismissively. Combat situations get exaggerated. Memory becomes unreliable under stress. Your cousin probably misremembered the numbers, or the humans had significant defensive advantages we are not hearing about. My cousin does not lie. I did not say he lied. I said he misremembered. There is a difference, and furthermore. Enough. Velkara's voice cut through the rising argument with practiced ease. The class settled immediately, though several students still bristled with the desire to continue the debate. She let the quiet stretch for a few seconds, making sure she had their complete attention. Then she smiled just slightly. It was not a comforting expression. Cadet Rinna asked a specific question, Velkara said. She did not ask about human combat effectiveness in general terms, or about their performance in the Krellian Wars, or about whether your relatives are reliable witnesses to history. She paused, letting each word land with deliberate weight. She asked about kill ratio, a precise, measurable statistic. The holographic display shifted, the previous tactical maps vanishing. In their place appeared a single line of text, rendered in stark white letters against the darkness. Classified material, instructor access only. Every student in the room leaned forward. What you are about to see, Velkara continued, her tone shifting from academic to something harder, something that carried the weight of real experience, is not theoretical. These are actual combat records, verified by multiple sources, cross-referenced against enemy casualty reports and independent observers. She paused again, her gaze sweeping across the suddenly very attentive cadets. And yes, before anyone asks, I have clearance to show you this material. The Admiralty believes that officers should understand exactly what they might face in the field. What we might face. Brell's voice had lost its confident edge. Professor, humanity is part of the galactic community. They are allies. Yes, Velkara agreed. They are. Which is why you need to understand what an allied human marine unit can accomplish when properly deployed. Her smile widened, showing too many teeth. Because if you ever have to work alongside them, you will need to recalibrate every assumption you have ever made about infantry combat. The display changed again. Numbers filled the holographic space above them, cascading down in columns of brutal mathematics. Engagement dates, locations, unit designations, enemy forces, human forces, casualties on both sides. The ratios were insane. Battle of Kepler Station, Velkara read aloud, highlighting one entry. 12 human marines. Designation Fire Team Havoc versus 230 Krellian shock troops in close quarters urban combat. Duration, 4 hours and 17 minutes. Human casualties, 3 wounded, none killed. Krellian casualties, 212 confirmed kills, 18 captured. The class sat frozen. That cannot be real, someone whispered, though nobody seemed willing to claim the statement loudly. Velkara moved to the next entry without pausing. Defensive Outpost 779er. 23 human marines against sustained assault by approximately 800 Krellian regulars supported by armor and air superiority. Duration, 14 hours. Human casualties, 9 killed, 11 wounded. Krellian casualties. She let the number hang in the air. 4,643. Cadet Thex made a choking sound. How? Excellent question, Velkara said, warming to her subject now. How does a species that joined the galactic stage barely 2 generations ago produce soldiers capable of this level of performance? They lack our advanced shielding technology. Their weapons, while effective, are not significantly superior to standard galactic marine armament. Their physical capabilities, while impressive, do not exceed those of, say, the Corthan heavy infantry. She pulled up tactical footage, actual combat recordings from various engagements. The quality was rough, clearly pulled from helmet cameras and surveillance systems never meant for classroom analysis. But the content was crystal clear. Humans moved through a war zone like they owned it. Watch this section carefully, Velkara instructed, highlighting a sequence where a single human operator was advancing through what appeared to be a bombed-out building. This is Corporal Jackson Hayes, moving to extract wounded squad members while under fire from multiple positions. Note the environmental awareness, the weapon discipline, the way he processes threat assessment while maintaining forward momentum. Hayes moved with a kind of controlled violence that was genuinely unsettling. He fired in short, precise bursts, each one dropping a target the students had not even seen yet. When his weapon clicked empty, the reload was so smooth it barely registered as a pause in his advance. He vaulted over debris that should have required climbing, kicked through a weakened wall rather than using the door, and had visual confirmation of his wounded teammates within 45 seconds of entering the structure. Then things got worse for the enemy. 2 Krellian soldiers, bigger than Hayes by a significant margin, came around a corner with weapons raised. Hayes did not even try to bring his rifle to bear. He closed the distance before they could fire, drove an elbow into the first one's throat with enough force to crush the windpipe, grabbed the second by the helmet. Yes, Velkara agreed. But here is what you need to understand. Hayes is not exceptional by human military standards. He is merely competent. Good at his job, certainly, but not rated among the elite operators that humanity fields for specialized operations. She switched to another file, This one showing a woman with short cropped hair and cold eyes, staring directly into a debriefing camera. This is Gunnery Sergeant Kira Vance, interviewed after the relief of Firebase Atlas. When asked how her squad managed to hold position against overwhelming force for 3 days without resupply, would you like to know what she said? The class waited. Velkara played the audio. Vance's voice was tired, rough with exhaustion and dehydration, but carried an edge that could cut steel. We held because giving up ground was not an option. The enemy wanted that firebase. They needed it for their advance. And we made sure they paid for every meter with so much blood that they lost the stomach for it. They broke before we did. They always do. They always do. Those 3 words carried the weight of absolute conviction, the kind of certainty that came from experience rather than bravado. Rinna raised her appendage again, trembling slightly. Professor, are you saying that humanity has never lost an engagement? No, Velkara said firmly. They have lost battles, suffered defeats, taken casualties that would devastate most military units. What I am saying is that kill ratio is perhaps the wrong metric for understanding human combat effectiveness. She gestured to the data still floating in the holographic display. Because the ratio is not what breaks enemy formations. It is the absolute refusal to quit, the willingness to continue fighting under conditions that would cause any rational species to surrender or retreat. She pulled up one final piece of footage, this one showing a human soldier with a shattered leg, propped against rubble, still firing at advancing enemies while medics worked frantically to stabilize him. His face was gray with blood loss. Pain twisted his features, but his hands remained steady on the weapon. During the Krellian Wars, Velkara said softly, captured enemy officers were interviewed extensively. Do you know what they feared most about fighting human forces? Not the technology, not the tactics, not even the kill ratios. She let the question hang for a moment. They feared that humans do not know how to stop. The lecture hall remained silent as Velkara dismissed the displays and looked out over her students, seeing the shift in their expressions, the dawning realization of what it meant to have humanity as an ally rather than an enemy. So to answer your original question, Cadet Rinna, she said, the kill ratio for a single Earth Marine varies wildly depending on circumstances, terrain, support, and opposition. But if you want a number that keeps enemy commanders awake at night, she smiled that predatory smile again. Assume every single one of them is worth at least 50 of yours and plan accordingly. Class dismissed. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.